Okay, hi everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining today's webinar, which is our second webinar for this year, but it is the first webinar for the Hong Kong ANC events and beyond. Today, our webinar title is about healthcare professional. In this webinar, you will learn about life and role as a healthcare professional, studying in medical school and access to resource, finding right professional and financial support option. Real story from our panelists. My name is Kory Lam, the chairwoman of Hong Kong Association of Northern California. I will be your moderator today. Let's take a look of today's agenda. So let's take a look. Oh, okay. So before I start, I want to thank you for all our HKANC corporate member and individual member, such as Clown LLC, Deloitte, Fong Co. and Association LLP, Miller and Capeland Areas LLC, Cathay Pacific Airway, United Airlines, AST Enterprise, Citibank, East West Bank, Bank of Orient, Polaris Advisory, HSBC, Happy Picasso, and more. Because of our member, we can do more and better for our community. So today, our agenda, we will have the panel discussion. Q&A will be followed. Please use the chat room to submit your question and your name. I will call your name and you can unmute yourself and ask the question directly to our panelists. We will conclude the event at around 5 p.m. So general reminder, everyone, please raise your hand or message us directly if you need any assistance during the meeting anytime. Please mute yourself during the presentation and use the post feature to submit your vote, because in this webinar, we will ask the question from your end and we will see the opinion from Dr. Wu and Dr. Ho. Today's meeting will be recorded for promotional purposes. Okay, I'm so excited. So today we're going to meet our first panelist, Dr. Ho. So Dr. Ho is serving as a chief consultant at the Northeast Medical Service and Chinese Hospital. Also, he has his own office in San Francisco. He was born and raised in Hong Kong and pursued his education in the US. He studied in biomedical engineering and John Hancock's, then attend medical school in University of California, Irvine. He completes his residency in University of Texas Medical Branch. Our next speaker is Dr. Wu, is serving in Kaiser in San Francisco Medical Center. Dr. Wu took a different route. He also is originally from Hong Kong. He finished his medical school training in UK and complete his residency in 12th New England Medical Center in Boston. Welcome, Dr. Ho and Dr. Wu. Okay, so let's start. So I want you guys to share with me, what did you choose to be a doctor? Who is your role model or who inspired you most in your career? Maybe I can have Dr. Ho answer first.
Sure. Well, thank you, Kory, for the introduction and invitation to become part of the webinar. For me, I have an uncle who is primary care doctor in Hong Kong growing up. So he's a general practitioner and kind of grew up learning from him. And I kind of remember when I was 12 or 13, I'm one of the younger cousin. I'm one of the older cousin, actually. I have some younger cousins in my family, but I think one day he brought home like a mouse, trying to show us how to do some dissections, and he brought all the tools from his clinic and also some anesthetic material. And I thought that was very interesting, but at the end, actually, we couldn't even anesthetize the mouse. So the funny thing is we couldn't complete it, but the whole process was very interesting and intriguing. And again, so that led me to sort of follow his footstep and also try to pursue the pre-medical study in the United States. And in college at Johns Hopkins, it's a very good pre-medical program. So a lot of the students who enter the school are pre-med. So I was surrounded by a lot of great students who are interested in the same thing, and also have some great mentors along the way. So that also helped guide me towards the path into medicine.
Great, thank you. So how about Dr. Wu?
Okay, thank you for having me and Dr. Ho as a guest for your panel. Looking back how I chose medicine, embarrassingly, it was kind of a blur, to be honest with you. When I was young, I think I always want a job that will provide me with good financial stability growing up in Hong Kong. And that probably was my reason. And in Hong Kong, growing up, everybody would encourage the children to be a doctor or lawyer. You will have a stable income afterwards, your good life, etc. That's kind of imprinted in my brain. Looking back, that's probably a wrong reason, but that's embarrassing is probably why I chose the field when I chose for subjects in university. And as I work in this field more and realize that this field is much more than just a stable income, it will reward you many other different ways. And I recall a couple of very inspiring mentors through my training. One is Professor Steer in London. He's a high-risk obstetrician, and his way of talking to people, and at the time, that was back in 1990s, to really start talking in terms of evidence-based medicine. It was very, at the time, it's relatively new, and it was inspiring. And in America, I work with several high-risk OB doctor at Boston Tufts New Medical Center, and another doctor, Dr. Um, Mary Dalton, who's the chairman at Columbia, and she is very inspiring how she dissect every single cases. And when you work with these people, you just want to be like them. So I think it's very important in our field to have good mentors.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, my second question. So, beside being a doctor, what are the other career option after the study medical school or PMed? Maybe I have this question for Dr. Ho first.
Sure. Actually, it's being a doctor, you may think is just a something you imagine, perhaps going to the clinic, treating patients from 9 to 5, or going to the emergency room, or being a surgeon in the operating room. But it's a lot more than that. It's actually a lot of different options that would suit your personality. Um, for example, you can be a hospital administrator, or you can be a, clinician scientist doing research, basic research, or other type of research in the field of medicine. So actually going to medical school is often just the first step. And for example, my mentor in medical school, Dr. Brian Wong, he only go to the clinic one day a week, but the rest of the time he would be in the lab doing research, studying nasal cartilage type research that, kind of really got me interested into the field of ear, nose, and throat. So there are a lot of different things you can do as long as you have an open mind. Some of my classmates got an MBA during medical school. If they have such a program called MD MBA, those are people who, again, would go into more administrative role, or they want to, chair a pharmaceutical company when they become a doctor. So those are lots of options even after entering medical school.
Good. How about you, Dr. Wu?
Yes, I agree with Dr. Ho. There are more than just going to medical school doesn't necessarily confine you to the career of a physician, and there are many different paths people can follow. Research is obviously one part, and a lot of physicians may not even see patients, and they just focus on developing new medical innovations. And sometimes private enterprises like drug company or genetic test companies will hire patients, people who have a medical background. And some people go into business too. And so I think medical school is, it prepare us to be physician, but actually prepare you much more than that.
Okay, great, great. Actually, is eye-opening because I always think that is after the PMAT or medical school is only to become a doctor. So my other question, do you really have to be academically gifted and grow up in advantage family to pursue this professional? So how about let's me to start with Dr. Wu first this time.
Okay, so first of all, I don't consider myself academically gifted, and my family is also not very well off. So I would say no, you don't need to. Okay, and I think you have to meet a certain academic standard to help you to get through the work in medical school. Um, but I think if you work hard, follow people advices, most people get through just fine. And my story from Hong Kong is actually my mom is almost like a single parent that bring up my me and my sister, so we're not financially very well off. Um, but I think it's not a prerequisite to to have a career in this field.
Okay, okay, okay. So how about Dr. Ho?
Yeah, I agree completely with Dr. Wu that family background or other things, financial consideration, it is certainly part of the equation, but it's not the most important thing for someone to say they can be admitted to medical school. I think you certainly need a certain degree of interest in science because ultimately that's what you're going to be studying at medical school. You got to be have some interest in the human body and stuff like that. But I think most importantly, it's also you've got to have a passion to serve others and to work with other people because um, in medical school or beyond or in residency, you're going to work with a team of people just like any walks of life, and you got to be able to become a team player. Some will become a leader, some become more of a follower, but either way, you got to be able to work with people to treat the disease and help others. To me, one other thing would be I like actually how to solve problem. When I grew up, actually, I was thinking actually my degree in college is engineering because at the time I was also very interested in math and the way of problem solving. But gradually, I found that that has become also one of the things I have continued to strive for in medicine because every disease, every patient is always like a problem. You want to solve it, you want to help the patient, and sometimes it can be a puzzle. So having that curiosity um, in science and also having certain drive and also problem solving skills would also serve one very well in medical school and beyond.
Great, thank you. Okay, my other question. The journey to become a doctor is a long road. What keep you moving along the way from, PMAT or even though your residency is just not easy at all. So what keep you moving? So maybe we can have Dr. Wu first.
Okay, thank you. So, getting through med school, I recall, is not too difficult. The thing is, you have a very structured life at the time. You go to lectures, you give your assignment, you attend this, attend that. People give you guidance here and so on. You get through. I did not find that particular difficult. But but you're right that going to residency and the training, the hours were long at the time. I remember when I first started as a junior doctor in England, there's 1 week I worked like 100 hours plus, easy. And those were hard times. And I think, and we don't get paid very much at the time, probably close to minimum wage as a junior doctor. I think things to get us through is the day-to-day reward that the patients give it back to you. Like I think there's something to say about talking with a patient to help them through difficult times or sharing happy times and learning through them. I think uh, developing medical knowledge is best through the patients, much better than through textbooks, because you learn from them. You see the case, what they actually went through, what the result come back as, and it build up your experience. So those kind of interactions and uh, knowledge enhancements are very fulfilling and kept me going.
Great. How about for you, Dr. Ho?
Yeah, I echo what Dr. Wu said. For example, in my field of ear, nose, and throat, I deal with people with loss of the senses, hearing loss. Some people lose their ability to smell. Some people lose their ability to taste and even swallow. Those are the things sometimes we almost take, you know, almost take as granted. So it's something that uh, once I see those patients and ability to help them able to hear again, whether it's through surgery, hearing aids, or even as simple as removing a piece of earwax, to be able to help them hear better, make my day. Every day, I'm sure, is the same as Dr. Wu, satisfaction of delivering a baby. So there's a certain joy in doing that every day. And that, I think, that's really keep us going, no matter how many frustrations we get on a daily basis.
Great, thank you. So my next question actually is for Dr. Ho, because you study in the U.S. So this is a loss of study to going to medical school or being a doctor. So study in medical field is a big investment. Can you share with us that is any scholarship or financial option available when you in undergrad or grad school or residency? Can you share with us?
Sure. Yeah, I think the coming from Hong Kong, it's definitely a lot of people say, well, why do you go to the US to study medicine? It's actually a much longer road. The reason is you have to go through pre-med, which is undergraduate study. You can actually major in different things. Like myself, I major in engineering. Some people actually major in arts and music, history. You can major in anything as long as you fulfill certain prerequisites to enter into medical school and take the entrance exam. After that, then you spend 4 years in medical school, some longer if you want to do research. And then you go into your internship, which is 1 year. And after that, basically you select your residency, your choice of your specialty. Some people would do subspecialty medicine, like Dr. Wu. Then they would go into longer period. So for me, it's about 13 years from start to finish, and we still have to go through continual medical education on a yearly basis. So it is definitely a long road. But in terms of the scholarship or any loans opportunities, there are lots of them actually, both in medical school. I think we heard about there are certain schools that actually offer scholarships. I think a few years ago, NYU did that for the whole class. And then some other schools also offer grants that it's forgivable. Loans are definitely a lot of my classmates, including myself, have loans. And that we basically pay off after we finish residency. Those loans are often forgivable if you go into a certain field of needs or certain area. If you decide to practice in certain rural area in America, or practice in certain fields that are in strong needs and demand, a lot of those jobs after you finish residency would actually help you forgive your loan. So there's definitely a lot of options if you have basically financial considerations.
Okay, great. Thank you. So my other question is for Dr. Wu. Since you finished your medical school in UK and did your residency in the US, can you share with us what's pros and cons?
Okay, thank you. So I think the main difference between the British training and US training, first is started at the level of medical school. Medical school is an undergraduate degree in UK. So after high school, essentially you apply to go to medical school and you go in. And typically the length of medical school is 5 years. And when you finish it, you come out essentially a doctor. Then you go through internship and training to pursue whatever specialty you want. So on paper, for someone who is really sure that they want to be a doctor, it gives you a quicker pathway to get a medical school degree compared with America. As a result, the cost that you put into tuition is probably lower. Okay. And to me, looking back, that's a pro, but also as a con, because looking back when I chose to go into medical school, I was 18 years old. I probably don't really know what I really want to do. And let's go back to your first question. Why did you choose medicine? And embarrassingly, it kind of like a blur. I couldn't really remember why exactly I chose it. Okay. So, and I think when I graduate from medical school, when I work with my colleagues, a lot of us are very young still. Like we were 23 years old. And to go through working as junior doctors, I, I don't think we gain as much. We haven't been developed that empathy that adults that develop to really work with the patients and other team members. So I think that's a con, that you will be committing to a pretty much a lifelong career very early on. And in America, it allows you to, not think through what you want to do in undergrad first and then decide. The other con is depend on where you want to work. And I think if you decided to come back to America to work, being trained outside, you will come back as a foreign medical graduate. And there will be some extra hurdles for you to overcome before you entering the residency program in America.
Okay, thank you. So this is a certain exam need to take as a foreign medical professional?
Yes. First of all, you have to go to a medical school that the U.S. recognize. So there's a organization called ECFMG. Okay, that's the name of the organization. And the exam that you need to take is USMLE. You can't take the exam if they don't figure out that you come from a kind of known medical school. They essentially don't want you to go to a they want you to go to a renowned medical school before even be eligible to come back here. That test has 3 steps, and so it may take a while for people to get through it. And it's the same test that American graduate takes, but they incorporate into the schedule of the medical school, so it's easier for you to go through them. But as a foreign medical graduate, when you're in England, to come to do this test at the time is tough. And one of the tests also require you to be in person in America. So you have to take times off work, etc., to fly here and then take it in person.
I see. Okay, thank you. A lot of detail. Thank you so much. So now we want to have some engagement with our audience. So I'm going to have Yanni to start a poll, and we were going to ask our audience some question. So you will able to see the question in here. So I want to see from our audience, in your opinion, what are top 3 quality of being a great healthcare professional? So I want you to select your answer, and then after that we will compare with Dr. Ho and Dr. Wu answer. So let's start. So we have a 30 seconds to answer this question. So Yanni, you can if is this ready, you can show us the results.
Hi, Kory. Now we have more than 70% of the participant has answered the question. So let's give them another 5 seconds to end the poll.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Okay. So here is our result. Have 8 in our audience here. They have 87%. They believe that is a passion for the job. Good good communication skill, and the other one is empathy, compassion, and emotional stability. So what do you think, Dr. Wu? I see you unmute, so I asked you first, and I'm going to ask Dr. Ho. What is your own answer for this
The
question?
same. My
The
answer is the
same.
same. I think good communication skill. The more I work in the field, I think that is very, very important. And I feel empathy and compassion is also important because um, that I think that is rewarding for both you as a doctor and also rewarding for the patient. Is the doctors being very sympathetic and really understanding what they're going through. Passion for the job is great. If we have it, it would drive excellence.
Okay, great. Thank you. How about you, Dr. Ho?
Yeah, I have passion and empathy, and I also have problem-solving skills. So, like I said, I think it's to me that's the interesting part about how I started and as an engineer and going into medicine and seeing my mentor use his engineering skills and problem solving skills in medicine. That's why I chose it. But I think good communication skill for sure, because you got to be able to communicate with patients and also the other team players in your medical team. So yeah, all those are good answers. All those are essentials, I think.
Yep, thank you. Actually, this is a trick question because when I do some of my research, I know that this is all element is very important for the healthcare professional.
But it's interesting. No one finds fit and healthy being important at 0%.
Okay, now we're going to the second pose. Okay, so Yanni, are you ready? Okay, so now this is our second pose. What quality choosing top 3 are essential to have it in order to be successful in medical school? Okay, so meanwhile that I want to remind everyone, we're going to open up for the Q&A. So if you would like to ask question, you can just type your name in the chat room. So I will call your name out in a second. So Yanni, if you have the answer, it will be great that you can post. Okay, so do you guys see? So interesting. So we have number one, we have a disciplined and good attitude is all 75%, and persistent drive is 63%. So Dr. Wu, what do you think about this post result?
Interesting. Yeah, I think they're all good, important quality. I actually thought humility is important
Yeah, I think this
because
is your this is your personality too.
I think being medical student, we need to know our limits.
Mm,
And one of the things that people worry the most is student doing thing more than they can. So
mm,
knowing what your limits are is important. And also, I think medical school is a time for discovery. You discover what's your strengths and what's your limits, and then apply to whatever field you want to go afterwards. So yeah, but I think they are all important. I would probably rank humility higher.
okay, great. Okay, thank you. So how about Dr. Ho?
Yeah, so I have discipline, persistence, and being a team player. I thought, yeah, this is specific to a medical student, right? Being successful in medical school.
Mm-hmm.
So being a medical students, as you tag along with your mentors, your basically your residents, and then your professors, um, you are oftentimes the lower tier in the whole group, right? I mean, you don't know as much. Like Dr. Wu said, you should have some humility, but at the same time, I think you're still part of the team. You still want to contribute, and oftentimes, as a medical student, it's your first real job-like opportunity outside of classroom. Like Dr. Wu said, I mean, you could be just, 22 years old, 21 years old, and you have no previous job experience being on the team other than in the classroom. So I feel like that's very important to be able to be a team player working with senior members of the team that know a lot more about medicine than you do.
Mm, okay. Okay, great, great. So I actually still have two more questions from myself, but I already received a lot of Q&A from our student in this webinar. So how about I save my two questions at the end. So first of all, I have Aiden Chong want to ask the question to both of you. Maybe let me choose to have Dr. Ho to answer. So, but let's have Aiden to unmute yourself. So, Aiden, you can ask your question directly to Dr. Ho.
So my question is, how long did it take to become a doctor?
Okay, good question. So to become a doctor in the United States, you go through college, which could be 3 to 5 years, depending on, again, like it again, there are a lot of different options. You can be the traditional pre-med that study in biochemistry, subjects like that, or you can choose to go into engineering like myself, or you can actually do arts as long as you fulfill some requirements, like you have to do a year of physics, a year of chemistry, a year of English. So there's some basic requirement courses that you need to do. Now, after you finish college, then, well, during actually the junior year or senior year of college, then you apply to medical school. So medical school is typically 4 years. If you want to do other programs during medical school like MBA, that will be 1 additional year. Or if you want to do research such as PhD, that will be additional 4 to 6 years. If you just go through the bachelor degree and medical school, and then well, then basically you become a doctor after medical school. So that would be, the short answer would be, college, medical school, to me, it was 8 years. And then you choose your residency, which can be a length of 3 to 7, 8 years. So it depends on what you're interested in, then you would go through those training. But again, after medical school, you already become doctors.
Okay, great. Really good question. So I have our next question is from Naomi Chi. Is Naomi with us? Hi, Naomi. Can you unmute yourself and you can go ahead to ask your question?
What is your typical day?
Might be this time I might be have Dr. Wu start, and then after that I will have a Dr. Ho answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question, Naomi. My typical day, I start at around 8:30 in my office, and I finish around 5:30. That's a typical work day length. Usually I do ultrasounds for pregnant women. So I would be supervising few sonographers who do the ultrasound, and then they'll come to me, I'll read them and write the report. And if there's any abnormalities, I'll go talk to the patient. And then I would go see patients that are admitted to the hospital. So sometimes pregnant women may develop health conditions that require hospitalization. So every day we go to see them and talk to them and see how the process is and going on. Then if there's some weeks that I'm on so-called on service, which means that if there's any emergency or thing, they can call me. That week, I also work with the residents. We have a residency program at Kaiser San Francisco. So we talk of cases and teach them. So that's kind of my typical workday.
Great. How about Dr. Ho?
So to me, I'm a ear, nose, and throat physician. So 4 days out of the week, I typically are in the office, typically from 8:30 to 5, seeing patients, see a variety of patients in, for example, hearing loss and nose allergies and throat, maybe a hoarse voice or something. So we have to do sometimes some minor procedures in the office, such as endoscopy in the office, or ear cleaning in the office, or some simple biopsies in the office. And then usually 1 day a week, I would go to hospital to do some outpatient surgery procedures, things like sinus surgery, things like biopsies, or I do some thyroid surgery as well. So that's kind of interesting in a way that, it's a little bit of a different day compared to being in office. So that kind of keep my job quite interesting as well. Like Dr. Wu, I would have to be on call for the hospital certain weeks of the year. And during that week, I would also see patients that come through the emergency room, or for some patients who stay in the hospital that need ear, nose, and throat consultations.
Okay, great. So Naomi, do you have other question?
No.
No. Okay, great. So we receive other question is from Adrian. So is Adrian, can you unmute yourself and you can ask the question directly?
Okay, I just like to know what's the difference between taking a pre-med course versus not taking it before medical school, and would you recommend taking a pre-med course before medical school?
Maybe I have a Dr. Ho to answer this question.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for the question. So pre-med is kind of like just a general term that says, well, during college, you are pre-med means you're preparing yourself to go into medical school. So certain requirements when I apply are that you have to have certain science classes like physics, chemistry, and biology. Um, Back then it was 1 year, it might still be the same. And then you need to have some math classes and also some English classes as well. So a lot of the majors would satisfy that requirement. So like I said, even if you're a music major or art history major, you can still finish those courses and complete the requirement. Of course, there are people who would decide later on after college that they want to apply to medical school, and those options, those also can be done. There's programs called post baccalaureate programs that help those people who decide later on after college that they really want to go into medical school. So they can go into a 1 or 2 year program like that to satisfy those medical school requirements after your bachelor's degree.
Okay, great. Thank you. So you have any additional question, Adrienne?
No, not really.
Okay, thank you. So now we have next student have some question is Julia. Is Julia here with us? You can unmute yourself.
Hi there. I just had some questions about what are some ways to gain hands-on experience during the pandemic in conjunction to, I guess, what are some things that students can do to stand out during the competitive graduate school process?
So who do you want to go first? Dr. Ho?
Either one.
Okay.
I think Dr. Ho's better in answering this one. Preparing for American medical school, I think my experience limited.
Okay.
So yeah, I think I have a son who is in a sophomore high school now, so I can speak a little bit of that about how, of course, he's still wide open. He doesn't know what he want to do, but I can tell you that there are certainly things that you can do to volunteer. I think volunteering would be quite an important experience. Um, I think there's still places where you can volunteer. For example, I think American Red Cross, you can still do volunteer. About the age of 16, you can volunteer. And there vaccination clinics now for COVID. So a couple Sundays ago, I brought my son to one of these in City College, and he volunteered during that time. Research might be harder for high school. It's more for college level students. But if the labs are open, you can apply. I believe Stanford have such program. UCSF do have such program for the summer. So those are the things medical school would look for in candidates, whether they have certain research experience sometimes. And that would certainly help them stand out.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good question. So the next student, we have BC. Is BC with us? You can unmute yourself and ask question. Hello, is BC with us? Okay, so I have a couple questions that is from the chat room. I think that is very interesting. So if you could do anything different in your path in your career, what would you have done differently and why? So can I maybe have Dr. Wu answer this question?
So the question is, if I stay with medicine as a career, what would I have done, or what is that if I don't do medicine, what would I have done?
If you do anything differently in
Oh,
your
I see.
in your path in your career.
Oh, if I have done anything differently in my career path.
Yeah. So
Oh,
let's
that,
say you don't choose to be a doctor.
huh? So but I'm still a doctor?
Yeah, yeah. Let's say you choose something different beside
Okay,
a doctor.
besides that, okay, all right,
What would you
okay.
like to choose?
Oh, thank you. That's interesting. I don't know, to be honest with you. At the time when I was before medical school, I really have a strong interest in physics. So I actually would have been very happy to gone to do a physics degree. And again, who knows afterwards what would I do? But I did have a very strong interest in that field.
Okay.
Maybe I would become a physics scientist.
Okay, sounds good. How about Dr. Ho?
I'd probably be an engineer, but somewhat of a more biomedical type. That's still because I'm interested in that field, but again, I enjoy that process. But back to, choosing. Well, I want to touch on a little bit about choosing specialty, going to medicine. I mean, a lot of times it's not. It may just be a very simple idea or opportunity that really leads us to go into the path. Like I was thinking about becoming a dermatologist at one point. I was thinking about becoming a radiologist at one point. And really, the reason why how I got into ear, nose, and throat was like an email that I read from my um, uh, senior medical student sent out, who wants to, join the lab for the summer, and I reply, and the rest is history. So it's simple things like that, and sometimes, oftentimes, change our career path. So it's quite amazing.
Yeah, okay. So I have a question from the audience. Any advice on MCAT? So maybe this question is for Dr. Ho. Any advice on MCAT?
Oh, I think MCAT has changed a little bit since I studied back in days. Um, I mean, there always the part, the verbal part, and coming from Hong Kong, that was always a challenge. Um, you know, Remembering those words, work lists and stuff like that. So that was a challenge. The science portions, um, it's as long as you do well in your college science subjects, physics, biology, and chemistry, I think you'll do well in that. Um, so back then there was still Kaplan. I think there's still Kaplan nowadays, but there's all kinds of places where you can do practice tests for MCATs. And now I think a lot of that obviously is through the computer. So there's actually a lot more options now. You can maybe just do questions through your phone. Back then you would have to actually go to a center and pick up a book and do those questions, and now I think it's a lot easier. So yeah, I think that it's do a lot of practice tests and do a lot of questions, and the verbal part again, you just have to know those things, just like SAT. So I think it's pretty similar.
Okay, great. Okay, so my next question is for Dr. Wu. So we have an audience currently is doing post BACC in Bay Area. Do you think it is a good idea to pursue medicine in UK or US, given as the audience is a BNO holder?
Oh, thank you. I think the question depends on where you want to live and where do you want to practice. Um, that's one of the first consideration, because if you plan to come back to the States to work, going to UK medical school, you will have some extra obstacles to get over to come back. That's number one. And I think the other issues that I'm not so clear about is, yes, you are BNO holder, and yes, they are kind of accepting people back to UK to have a pathway to be a resident there. The acceptance of medical schools, if you are not a resident already, you may still count as overseas student for the UK medical school, which at least when I was there back in the 90s, they limited. For example, my medical school have 160 students per class. They limit overseas student to 5 per year. And the other thing is, it's going to medical school is actually not too expensive there if you're a resident there already. I don't know whether a BNO status is just going back there to as a student, you are you can enjoy the same fee as local students. So I think if you thinking about working in UK long term, it does make sense to go through that system. That's one thing. The other thing you may want to consider is that doctors, the packages of payment for doctors in America tend to be higher than in UK because of the national health system. So if this is what you want to do, I think it's fine. And they all have a decent job, decent salary. It's not an issue, but the reimbursement in USA tends to be higher. I hope I answered that question.
You did. You did. Thank you. Thank you. So I want to say thank you for Dr. Ho and Dr. Wu for joining us today. You give us a lot of insight in the medical professional career. And thank you. Thank you. Especially want to taking out of your busy schedule attend this webinar. So to all the students, thank you very much. In 2021, Hong Kong ANC will have more program, networking event, educational program through the virtual setting. We would like you to join us to attend the event. Please sign up as a member and help us to like, follow, and share in our social media channel. Once again, at the closing instant, thank you for all having joined the webinar. We are looking forward to see you soon. Now I'm going to pass this on to Yanni for our upcoming event.
Thank you, Kory. And thank you so much for your sharing, Dr. Ho and also Dr. Wu. And I believe all of our participants have learned a lot from this webinar today. I know that time is running fast. If you have not submitted a question or if you have missed any part of this webinar, no worries, because our event recording will be available on the HKANC YouTube channel. I would say in a couple business days. So I've already sent out the link to our YouTube channel through the chat room. So feel free to review and share with your connections later on. So for our upcoming events, we are going to have the economic forecast and consumer product trends to 2021 hosted by HKTDC, jointly organized with the other Hong Kong Association chapters on March 11. So if you're interested, you can always visit our website and make your reservation before that. After that, I would also like to make an announcement. The latest 2021 membership benefits are now available on our website. So one thing is very important, because if you like our webinar today and you're a student and would like to join more of our Hong Kong Association's events in the future, you can sign up as a student member. If you have a valid ID, your student membership will be free. So if you have any questions, please contact us at our email address info@hkanc.com for more information after the webinar today. So for the other membership levels and benefits, you can find more information on our website as well. So last but not least, as Kory mentioned before, in 2021, Hong Kong Association, we will have a newly reformed scholarship program. So we will accept the scholarship application starting in March 15. You can get more information on our website, and the scholarship program website, you can find it out on the Chairwoman as well. So please let us know if you have any questions, or if you know someone who may be interested in applying. So feel free to send us a message. So last thing, if you like our event and then would like to support us, please follow us, like our posts, and join our upcoming events. You can find our social media platforms on the screen. You can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, and also you can review all of our past webinar recordings on our YouTube channel. So thank you again. Thank you, Kory. Thank you, Dr. Ho and Dr. Wu, and also for all our audience today. Happy Chinese New Year. We hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Have a good night.